Imagine your wealth is measured in billions. And yet, at home, Monopoly is basically on the do not touch list because every game turns into a family civil war. The British royals live in a golden cage. Privilege comes with an unwritten rulebook full of invisible tripwires and bizarre rituals. From handbag rescue signals to packing morning clothes for every trip, today we're exposing 50 strange rules and old traditions that still linger. Forget the fairy tales, this is the weird fine print of wearing the crown. And the last one is the wildest. A legal shield so big it makes every other rule on this list feel like etiquette. 1. You know the state opening of Parliament looks like pure pageantry, gold, uniforms, big serious faces. Here's the part that sounds like a sitcom. There's a tradition where a Commons official from the government side is ceremonially held at the palace as a symbolic hostage while the monarch goes to Parliament. It's not a kidnapping, it's a historic trust exercise with better tailoring and calmer catering. They aren't tied to a chair, they're more like a very polite security deposit. The payoff is the message. The crown in Parliament can smile for the cameras, but the rule book is still remembering past power fights. 2. Now imagine getting invited to Christmas dinner and the host says, "Before we eat, everyone step on the scale." There's a long-running Sandringham tradition of weighing guests before and after the meal. If your family does this, you'd move and change your phone number. And you'd start eating in the car just to avoid the weigh-in. And if you come up light, what do they send you home with a sandwich? The payoff is that royal hospitality has its own scoreboard, and it's literally measuring, did we feed you enough? 3. If you think royal fish is odd, meet the swans. There's a long-standing crown right to claim ownership of unmarked mute swans in open waters, mainly exercised on certain stretches of the River Thames. It's less, the king is chasing birds, and more the paperwork still thinks the birds are assets. There's even a long-running swan counting tradition tied to this world. Because of course there is, and it's treated with the seriousness most of us reserve for tax season. The payoff is that some traditions survive because they're harmless, specific, and nobody wants to be the person who deletes them from history. 4. The British monarchy follows a strict house rule that effectively bans them from playing Monopoly. Prince Andrew once admitted the competition becomes far too vicious because when you own half of London in real life, the battle over fake hotels gets personal. Having the future king screaming over a go-to-jail card is a PR disaster the palace simply won't tolerate. It's a tactical ceasefire designed to keep the peace between billionaires. 5. If you are a Windsor, your dinner plate is a logistical minefield. The royals are strongly advised to avoid shellfish like lobster or shrimp while traveling on official business to prevent food poisoning. The risk of a sudden allergic reaction is considered a high-stakes threat when the entire world is watching your every move. Think about the industrial efficiency of a state funeral being derailed because the king missed a global event due to a bad muscle. 6. To protect the line of succession, the top 2 heirs to the throne follow a survival protocol that prevents them from flying on the same airplane. King Charles and Prince William usually fly on separate jets so that a single tragic crash wouldn't wipe out the monarchy's future in one go. Once Prince George turns 12, he will also be forced to fly on a separate flight path from his father. Same palace, different prison. 7. Do not bother looking for a side of garlic bread at a royal banquet. Queen Camilla has confirmed that garlic remains a major no-no during palace events to ensure no world leader is offended during close-range meetings. Apparently, the palace considers garlic breath a minor diplomatic incident that must be avoided at all costs. Luxury dining, but with terms, conditions, and absolutely no flavor. 8. Every time a royal packs a suitcase for an international trip, they must include one specific and somber item: an all-black mourning outfit. This ensures they are ready to step off the plane looking appropriately sad if a family member dies while they are away. This rule was solidified in 1952 when the Queen was in Kenya and had to wait inside her plane for a black dress to be delivered. Most people pack an extra pair of socks. The royals pack for a sudden funeral. 9. If you see a royal in public, do not bother bringing a pen. They generally decline signing scraps of paper to prevent their signatures from being forged or sold for profit on the open market. They are the only celebrities on the planet required by tradition to be completely and legally unsignable. Want a royal signature? You don't need a pen, you need a head of state appointment. 10. King Charles used his personal authority to implement a strict ban on foie gras across all royal residences because he finds the production process cruel. Even though they have servants and golden plates, the residents of the palace are expected to follow this moral grocery list without question. This is a rare case where the boss's personal ethics become a mandatory house ordinance. Operational control at its finest. 11. The Poet Laureate is a prestigious royal position, but the pay structure is one of the most ridiculous historical holdovers. Since 1630, the person chosen to write poems for royal events has been partially paid in a butt of Canary wine, which is about 600 bottles of sherry. Today, that alcohol is still delivered right to the writer's door. That's not a salary, that's a professional-grade bar tab with a title attached. 12. When you are dining with the king, you better be a fast eater. Protocol dictates that when the monarch puts down his fork, everyone else at the table must stop immediately, regardless of how much food is left. It is a weirdly stressful way to enjoy a banquet that turns every bite into a race against the boss's stomach. 13. The king has a professional royal piper who acts as a living, breathing morning alarm clock. Every morning at 9 a.m. sharp, this man plays the bagpipes under the king's window for 15 minutes straight to signal the start of the day. It is definitely more dramatic than an iPhone alarm, and an industrial-strength way to ruin a good night of sleep. 14. Myth. Princesses wear tiaras because they like them. Reality. It's an archaic relationship status update. Tiaras are traditionally reserved for married women or brides to signal their romantic status to a crowded room. If a royal woman shows up to a gala without diamonds on her head, she is technically signaling that she is single and available. The leash is made of diamonds. 15. By strict convention, the royals are expected to remain neutral and avoid voting or expressing any political opinions in the public sphere. If the king were to tweet his personal opinion on a new law, it would cause a massive constitutional crisis for the nation. Imagine having billions of dollars but absolutely no voice. That's a high-priced mascot with a permanent gag order. 16. Every royal bride since Queen Victoria has been expected to carry a sprig of myrtle in her wedding bouquet. The myrtle must come from a specific bush planted by Victoria herself, and omitting it is seen as a bad omen for the marriage. One wrong prune by the palace gardener, and the entire future of the monarchy is technically cursed. 17. When a royal baby is born, the parents are expected to choose from a limited pool of traditional family names like George or Arthur. This isn't about personal preference. It is about protecting the historical continuity and corporate image of the royal line. When you can't even freely name your own kid, your lifestyle starts to feel like a corporate branding exercise. 18. You will almost never see a royal woman wearing bright-colored nail polish. Only neutral shades or a specific ballet slipper pink are considered appropriate for the image the palace wants to project. Bright reds or neons are viewed as distracting for a member of the family representing the crown on the global stage. The bureaucracy has decided that fingernails are a matter of public decorum. 19. If you need to leave a royal dinner, you cannot just excuse yourself to the restroom. The procedure? You do not announce why you are leaving, preventing anyone from thinking about royal digestive systems. You simply say, "Excuse me," and slide out to maintain the illusion that these people are above regular human bodily functions. 20. Following their German heritage, the royals open all their Christmas gifts on Christmas Eve during afternoon tea. They also follow a long-standing house rule to only buy each other the cheapest, silliest gag gifts possible instead of expensive jewelry. It is nice to know that even billionaires enjoy a $5 prank gift while sitting in a literal palace. 21. It is a centuries-old tradition among the British upper class that young royal boys like Prince Louis must almost always wear shorts. Trousers are historically viewed as a middle-class fashion choice for young children, so royal males are required to wear shorts until they reach the milestone age of 8, a class distinction stitched right into the fabric. 22. The royals receive thousands of gifts every year, but strict internal guidelines dictate they aren't actually allowed to keep most of them. Any gift received during a public duty technically belongs to the crown as a state asset. Imagine being handed a luxury watch and having to surrender it to a government warehouse 5 minutes later. 23. You will rarely see King Charles or Prince William holding hands with their wives while on official duties. There is a strong professional expectation to avoid public displays of affection to maintain the dignity of the monarchy. Since they are technically at work, looking too intimate is viewed as a distraction. Welcome to the Crown, where your marriage is a public relations assignment. 24. King Charles officially celebrates his birthday twice every single year. His actual birthday is in cold November, but the state celebration happens in June with a massive military parade to ensure sunshine. The monarchy decided centuries ago that the sovereign's birthday should not be ruined by British rain. If you have the power to reschedule your own birth just to get good lighting, you are a weather god. 25. A legal opinion from 1717 technically gives the king legal custody of all his minor grandchildren. This ordinance was created because King George I had a terrible relationship with his son and wanted total control over his grandkids' education. While modern monarchs don't enforce this with police, the law remains on the books. Grandpa isn't just the patriarch, he is the legal owner of your offspring. Okay, enough family drama. Let's speedrun the micromanagement. These are the petty rules that govern every second of the day. 26. The clock literally dictates your wardrobe. For royal women, hats or fascinators are mandatory before 6 p.m. But the second evening falls, the hats come off and the diamond tiaras come out. It is a high-stakes daily transformation required for every formal event. It turns out that in the palace, even diamonds have a strict curfew. 27. Ever wonder who owns the dolphins? An ancient statute from 1324 legally grants the monarch all whales and sturgeons in British waters. If you happen to catch one of these royal fish, you are technically required to offer it to the crown before doing anything else. It essentially turns the entire British coastline into the king's personal, unregulated fish tank. 28. You can't say no to a crocodile. Diplomatic protocol requires the royal family to accept every single gift they receive, no matter how bizarre or alive it might be. They have been handed everything from elephants to sloths, and they must accept them all with a grateful smile. Diplomacy means saying, "Thank you for a reptile you didn't ask for." 29. Passports are for peasants. King Charles is the only person in the United Kingdom who does not need one to cross international borders. Because British passports are issued in his name, printing one to give himself permission to travel would be legally redundant. He is the only man on earth who has his own travel document. 30. Even drinking a cup of tea is a choreographed performance. You must pinch the handle with your thumb and index finger, never extend your pinky, and sip from roughly the same spot on the rim to minimize lipstick marks. It takes a relaxing afternoon beverage and turns it into an exam. One wrong finger placement, and you've instantly failed high society. 31. Forget the DMV. The king is the only person in the country permitted to drive without a driver's license or plates on his cars. Just like the passport, the licenses are issued by his authority, so he needs no permission from the state to get behind the wheel. The road belongs to him. The paperwork is for the rest of us. 32. At a royal banquet, napkins must be folded in half and used only on the inside of the fold. This hyper-specific method ensures that no unsightly food stains are ever visible to the other guests. It is a tiny detail that maintains a perfectly clean illusion, because nothing ruins a billionaire's mystique quite like a visible smear of gravy on camera, right? 33. When finished eating, place your knife and fork parallel at exactly 6 o'clock. Cross them, and the waiter assumes you're resting and will refuse to touch your plate. There is no asking for the check or casually pushing your chair back. This isn't dining etiquette. It's an operating system. 34. Think a heat wave gets you out of the dress code? Think again. Showing a bare leg in public is a breach of professional decorum, meaning nude tights are mandatory even during a scorching summer tour. Modesty, in this case, looks a lot like a sweaty nylon nightmare. 35. The royal dogs eat a gourmet menu of fresh rabbit meat served in silver bowls. Their meals are prepared by a private chef and strictly ordered by seniority within the pack. They are never given standard processed kibble. In this house, being a royal corgi is a higher status than being a human guest. 36. Ever needed to consult a spreadsheet just to check if you're allowed to wear a blue suit today? Welcome to the royal closet. Every outfit is logged in a database to ensure they don't repeat the exact same look too soon for the global cameras. Fashion is supposed to be fun, but here, it is a professional-grade audit. 37. Wait, so I can't even walk away normally? Exactly. Protocol strongly discourages anyone from turning their back on the king during a conversation. You are expected to take a few steps backward before turning around, ensuring he remains the room's center of gravity. 38. Maintaining royal dignity at the dinner table apparently requires the core strength of a Pilates instructor. Women are taught the Duchess slant, keeping knees and ankles together and tilting legs to one side to create a modest silhouette. It is surprisingly difficult to hold for hours without your legs falling asleep. 39. A simple happy birthday isn't enough. For the king, it involves a literal military operation with a 41-gun salute typically fired in a royal park like Hyde Park. It requires a massive amount of coordination and gunpowder. It is a loud, smoky, and incredibly expensive way to say happy birthday to a man who already owns the park. 40. It takes the mundane act of walking downstairs and turns it into a high-heeled, blindfolded trust fall. Royal women are taught to keep their chin parallel to the ground and feel for the railing without ever looking down at their feet. The goal is to navigate steep stone steps while creating the illusion of floating. Alright, the petty stuff is over. The top 10 unhinged rules start now. 41. When a new monarch is crowned, they technically have an official king's champion standing by for the coronation banquet. Historically, this person's job was to ride in on a horse and challenge any doubters to a fight to the death right then and there. Today, the role is mostly ceremonial, but the title and the history of challenging haters to a duel still exist within the household. If you have a champion to fight your battles, you aren't a leader. You're a warlord in a tuxedo. 42. When the royal family joins a procession, they must follow a strict order of precedence based on who is closest to the throne. King Charles leads the way, followed by Queen Camilla, and then the heirs to the throne in their exact order of succession. Minor royals walk at the very back of the line for their entire professional lives as a living reminder of their place. Same palace, different prison. 43. Even behind closed doors, the family hierarchy is absolute and requires bowing or curtsying to the king and queen every single day. It doesn't matter if you are in your pajamas or at a formal gala. The crown gets respect every single morning before breakfast. Bowing to your father before you even have your morning coffee is a level of discipline most people couldn't handle. 44. The king is the only person in the United Kingdom who does not have a traditional last name on official government documents. His official signature is just his first name, followed by the letter R, which stands for the Latin word for king. He doesn't need a surname like Windsor because his title is his identity. If you only need one letter to sign a state document, you aren't a person. You are a global brand. 45. Every year, the royal family is required by ancient treaties to pay rent for certain lands in very strange and symbolic ways, instead of cash. Instead of a bank transfer, the crown sometimes receives items like a single red rose, a pair of white gloves, or even a bucket of snow. If the tenant cannot provide the snow in the middle of a summer heat wave, they actually have to pay a fine. Paying your landlord in garden flowers and fancy mittens isn't rent, that's a hobby. Top 5 starts here. These are the ones that feel less like a monarchy and more like a cult manual. 46. In a tradition that sounds like a sewing accident, the king uses a silver needle to prick the names of new local officials. This started because Queen Elizabeth I was busy with her embroidery when asked to sign a list of sheriffs and used her bodkin instead. Today, they still use the same needle-stabbing method to poke people into their official government offices rather than using a normal pen. If you get a job via a sewing needle, your boss isn't an executive, they is a master of embroidery. 47. There is a secret tactical language involving the monarch's handbag that the palace staff must learn to read with absolute precision. If the monarch moves their bag from one arm to the other, it is a signal that they are bored and need an immediate rescue from a conversation. If they put their bag on the table during dinner, it means the entire event must end in exactly 5 minutes. If your luggage does the talking for you, you aren't a speaker. You are a master of silent signals. 48. The king participates in the ancient pearl sword ceremony at the boundary of the City of London, a ritual often mistaken for asking permission to enter. In reality, it is a symbolic moment where the Lord Mayor surrenders the city's sword to the sovereign to acknowledge his authority. It is a classic move in the game of royal power and local autonomy that dates back centuries, proving the king respects the city's unique rights. 49. Legend dictates that at least 6 ravens must be kept at the Tower of London at all times, or the kingdom will fall. To ensure this doesn't happen, the birds technically serve the crown, and even have their flight feathers trimmed so they can't escape their post. It is a superstition turned into a government mandate, proving that the safety of the nation relies on a few birds staying put. 50. The concept of sovereign immunity provides the king with an extraordinary legal shield, meaning he cannot be prosecuted in criminal courts because justice is technically carried out in his name. While the crown can still face civil liability in certain cases, the monarch himself is personally immune from arrest. In theory, this protection is vast, though modern kings follow the rules to keep their jobs. It is the ultimate get-out-of-jail-free card that makes every other rule on this list feel like a mere suggestion. If the law doesn't apply to you personally, you aren't a citizen. You are the law personified. The British monarchy is essentially a high-stakes golden cage where every sandwich and signature is governed by tradition. It is a life of ultimate luxury, but it clearly comes at a massive personal cost to their individual freedom. Luxury, yes, but it's luxury, with a compliance manual. The crown isn't the prize, it's the cage. If you enjoyed this deep dive, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories. Let us know in the comments which of these rules would make you quit the royal family forever.